Oh, welcome to another episode of Feel a Singer. I'm really excited. I'm excited about this episode. This is the beautiful Sue Ray. She is a proud Gamilaraay woman, multi-award winning singer-songwriter. I believe a true genre bender. So you're very much known for your country, blues and roots. However, we're going to talk about the jazz today. And yep. I think you can bloody sing anything, mate. Or you could sing the alphabet and make me cry. You are a 3 times Q Music Award winner, festival favourite from Woodford to Big Sound. I believe you're not just a singer that sings and goes through the motions. You really tell a story. You move people. I get the goosebumps whenever I hear you sing. I even saw a YouTube video a few years ago with you and your dad singing. It was a Patsy Cline number.
I Fall to Pieces.
Yeah, I Fall to Pieces. I'm just like, oh, it just melted. And I'm pretty sure everyone who's seen you live feel the same thing. Can't talk for everybody, but I just think you have to be a sociopath if you felt any different. No judgment. But I think what's really exciting is the fact that you love jazz. You have also performed at the Powerhouse. You put on a Nina Simone tribute at the Powerhouse. That was back in the day when I was like so poor I couldn't even afford a coffee, so I didn't come, but I heard all about it and saw all the beautiful photos. Still remember what you wore. And,
so do I.
That
wish
beautiful
it still fit.
Don't talk to me about that, mate. All my beautiful jumpsuits don't fit these days. And I first saw you performing with the Fondelles at the zoo. That's when I saw you for the first time, and that's where I met my soulmate, Amy.
Yes.
Yes. And I better not. I just make it very clear that she is my BFF soulmate.
Which I think sometimes are more important.
Exactly.
They're the lifelong ones.
I believe so. But she is happily married with 3 kids.
Yeah.
So I just thought you three, it was Victoria Watson, yourself, and Amy Zufar. You just absolutely blew my mind. And I just loved how different each of you were. And just how that mixed into this really gorgeous sound, the meat and potato, like sort of punk, garage to like the soul voice. Yeah.
And it happened by accident. We were all just Victoria, as we all knew her back then, was Trixie from the Emperellas. Mm-hmm. She was actually a bass player and singer, so she wasn't normally a drummer. And Amy had only been playing guitar for a short time, and I'd never played bass.
Wow, I didn't know that.
No, so we were at a party at my house, and because actually Trixie knew Amy from work because they both worked in childcare, and they all got along in the music sort of scene. And then she brought Amy, who I'd never met, to the party, and we had a drum kit and stuff set up downstairs, and everyone was having a good time, as you do. And then we were like, let's have a jam. And Trixie was like, I've never played drums. And she sat down and just started doing the mashed potato drumming. And Amy picked up the guitar, and I went, I've always wanted to try bass. And we started to just jam. And suddenly it's like it was that magical connection, because suddenly we had about 2 or 3 songs, and someone at that party was like, you guys are amazing. Can I book you for a gig? And we all laughed and said, we're not a real band. And they were like, oh, well, we've got this gig at the Jubilee Hotel next month, and we'd love you guys to play at it. It's like a female punk night or something. And we just went, okay. And literally that weekend we wrote down a list of like 10 songs, like cover songs, because we didn't have any of our own. I had about 3 songs up my sleeve from a previous band I'd been in that we didn't do anything with them, and we learnt those. And then we jammed about 5 times, and then in the process of that ended up writing probably a couple of songs on the spot that Trixie sort of just started singing and playing drums, and I'd start playing bass, and suddenly we had that song, Yeah, I Love You, that one.
I love that song. I've got the cassette tape. I think I
shared
that on Facebook.
I need a copy.
I do have to find it though, by the way, but it is I reckon it's somewhere.
I can't even remember what the artwork was. I think Little Johnny,
was it? Johnny Powell. I
think he did the artwork.
Was it a car? car? Wasn't it a vintage car?
Oh, who knows?
I feel like it's a vintage car.
Gosh, this could almost be 20 years ago, 15.
It was in the thousands,
Early,
so it must have been
far out.
2006. It was
And prior
2000.
to that, I'd only done country music, or the years prior to that, I'd been in a band called Astro Girl that
Yeah.
was formed at Rock School, which was South Bank TAFE, where we all studied contemporary music. So I'd been in like a 90s sounding sort of grunge rock girl band, kind of like Killing Heidi vibe.
Yeah.
And then I'd been in sort of country bands, and I'd been playing a bit of guitar in this band called Last House on the Left, which was an all-girl sort of stoner rock band. And then, so I'd never sort of done, I loved all that Girls in the Garage type 60s sort of mashed potato, punk stuff. But anyway, we did that, and we did that first gig, and it was such a hit. People just were nuts for it. And suddenly...
and the harmonies as well.
Yeah, it was a magic combination, because there was one gig where Vic couldn't do it, Trixie couldn't do it, and we got my friend Jane Domagala to come in, Doma, and she was the drummer from the Amparellas, so she's a fantastic rock drummer. And it just didn't work. Amy and I just kept looking at each other and like, Dom is an amazing drummer, but we tried to do it and we just couldn't. And it was obviously just that magic combination. And and it was such good times. Eventually, I mean, we ended up playing with bands like Faker and the Purple Hearts, and just played like with Giants of Science
and the
every rock punk, played with Strutter and Gentle Benny, Sensitive Side, and all those sort of Brisbane early 2000s. The Hymies, obviously Trixie was at the time seeing someone from the Hymies. So it was a really fun time. And then eventually we did the 1 a.m. residency at the Troubadour. Yay, the Troubadour. Still
one of my Could you imagine doing a 1 a.m. residency now in our 40s?
The only thing I do at 1 a.m. is get up to pee these days.
Yes.
But that was really
my
really
routine as well. And let's tell everybody that you are from Toowoomba.
I was born in Toowoomba.
And you are from country. A musical dynasty up there as well.
Well, yes, Dad is still going. His band, the Countdowns, have been playing consecutively for 60 years running. They just had their 60th anniversary about 2 months ago, and I actually got to sing at it, so that was fun.
Oh, awesome.
And like they're all in their late 70s, early 80s, hip replacements and that. But there's my dad with his Telly Deluxe doing the scissor walk across stage like he's in AC/DC or something. And it's really it just makes you realize how young music keeps you. And I think it's essential that if you have a passion in life, just keep with it. Even
I believe we are all a bunch of Peter Pans. I still don't sort of apart from the more frequent, peeing at nighttime and, the perimenopausal symptoms and all the rest. But, I sometimes forget that, holy shit, I'm 42. But that's because of music. It does
keep you so young. I mean, if I hadn't have had kids, the only reason I was living in Nashville, I was one of those lucky buggers that won the green card lottery. Can you believe it? And I was living over there, and a lot of my friends were 10, 15 years younger than me, and they never realized I was older. And then when I actually would say my age, they'd be like, no, that's impossible. And I'm like, I'm not saying I looked young, but I think there's something in your energy that stays young.
I think so.
And then
too.
They think you look younger because your energy.
That 10 years ago, I used to get that, but now it's they're like,
it slows down.
Yeah, no, we totally. Yeah, you're totally middle aged. And so also too. So your dad still has a very well known music shop.
No, he that actually unfortunately got damaged in a fire.
Oh God, I'm so sorry.
Was it about 12,
my God,
13?
do you bloody research?
It's one of those things where it's kind of a blessing in disguise, because we've been trying to get him to retire, because as you know, the music industry is tough, but the music instrument industry is even tougher because their profit margins are just so low. And there's such competitiveness, and big chain stores can outsell the little independent guys. The only thing that sort of kept my dad going was his vintage guitar collection, which we were literally at the Brisbane Vintage Guitar Show with the stall for him yesterday.
Oh, wow.
So, he had the music shop, which I grew up in. He was in a couple of bands. So I didn't know what it was like to go to a footy match on a weekend or anything. I was always at like Dad's gigs or, at the Toowoomba Country Music Club or at the pub watching some band play with Dad. It sounds terrible, but that was the 80s and 90s. Kids could go to the pub. So for me, I don't know, gigs and music feels like normal life, and having it like a day job or trying to be normal is like abject torture for me. So I think I'm very fortunate that all of the things I've done in my life have led me to the point now with my day job, I get to work within the music industry and get paid for it, which is really cool. So I'm very, it's not lost on me how lucky I am.
Also, massive congrats with your full-time position at APRA. I hope that's okay to say publicly. Yeah.
Yes, I started at NATSIMO which is part of APRA MCOS. It's the National Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Music Office. So starting with them. Sadly, I'm finishing up at Q Music this week, actually. It's actually our gig on Thursday is my last day. I've been very lucky to work there for the last 2.5 years and have been really proud of the First Nations work I've gotten to do there, as in the Gool, which is our First Nation section of Big Sound, and just being able to be a part of that and grow that has been something I'm really proud of, and working with the incredible depth and breadth of First Nations artists we have, not just in Australia, but specifically in Queensland. So many amazing artists of all genres.
Honestly, blows me away. And particularly from a singing teacher point of view, I'm just like, oh my God, these voices.
Yeah.
There's just from insanely
country,
talented.
And powerful. I mean, they have such, I find the difference when I work with First Nations artists is not to say it's better or worse, but I just find they have such a strong connection to their culture and their stories, which they really express through their music. And that's really an important aspect for me of what I like to do in my music. And I feel like it's so powerful, like when you go see, say, Miss Kanena or Fred Leone or Uncle Kutcher Edwards, like obviously listening to our elders like Archie Roach, it's so impactful. There's a deepness to the stories and such a connection to songlines, and I think that's what I really love being a part of. And also just young mob, like see these little 16-year-olds, like I'll do a songwriting workshop, and years ago I did one with this young fella called Budjera. Well, look at him now, touring with Ed Sheeran. Not saying I had a part in that at all. No, I actually said to his dad that night, I went, that kid is really special. And his dad was like, yeah, we know. So yeah, but I love sitting back now and seeing him take off, and like Chloe Terrere, and he got Thelma Plum, and like Jem Casadale, and all these amazing artists that Sachem in Brisbane. So many. I could sit here all day and name them, but I'm very fortunate in my time at Q Music to have got immersed in that scene. And now as I move over to NATSIMO, I get to do it on a national scale now, which is really amazing, and working with a really incredible team like Leah Flanagan and Nathaniel Andrews and just the whole mob at APRA.
Bloody amazing. Yeah. And just speaking from like your own personal experience, because you're nurturing all this beautiful talented mob that are really connected to culture, and it comes through the music. Obviously that's the same for you. You're deeply connected to your Gamilaraay. Is that the name of country in
Gamilaraay.
Gamilaraay.
Yeah, my nana was born actually down in Wee Waa, and she's a direct matriarchal descendant of, like, which we can trace it right back to the early 1800s. That's the earliest records we have. And actually there's Native American in there as well. A lot of Native Americans came over in the gold rush as sort of servants, we believe, to the white fellas that came over. In New South Wales, there was a real gold rush then. And so one married my third great-grandmother, and then her daughter, they only had one daughter because sadly he drowned in the Narrabri River.
Oh my God.
And then her daughter married another Aboriginal man who has his own whole legacy as well. Like they ended up having 13 children or something. One of them was my great-grandmother, and then she had Nana, and so it's all the matriarchal bloodline. And I feel like culture and music particularly is such a deep part of that culture. But on my dad's side, I've got the Irish and the Italian and the French. So I've got just a lot of rich cultures in there that love music and food and culture.
I hear that one.
And I think the Irish side too, I've got quite a strong Irish connection. And I think obviously music is a big part of that. And I do get really emotional when I hear like elders singing with, the didge and clapsticks and all those things. And like Uncle Kutcher Edwards, as soon as he sings, I just start crying instantly. And so playing in his band was problematic because just about every band photo I'm in the background, like, But then I also cry when I hear a fiddle. like playing Irish tunes. So,
I do believe it's so deeply embedded in our DNA. The same thing.
yeah,
Whenever I hear any Rebettigo, which is from
yeah,
where my family are from, Turkey, they were the Greeks living over there,
yeah,
was Asia Minor. I get
yeah.
goosebumps and all sorts of strange emotions that come up, from that.
Yeah.
So it
I can
is
recommend a book called
in
It
our
Didn't
body.
Start With You. I can't remember who wrote it, but a friend gave it to me. It called It Didn't Start With You. And as I started reading it, it's about how they've actually done scientific studies into how DNA can store memories and genetic memories. It's the same as how elephants can be born and suddenly know how to trek across the Sahara without being told. It's in their genetic memory. And I think for us, like when I was reading it, it just resonated with me to go, oh, that's why I find this thing haunting. And then you find out your great grandmother used to do that, or and you go, wow, that's insane. Because essentially when my mother was forming inside her mother, when Nana was pregnant, mum's eggs had already formed, so I was
Mm,
inside my mum when she was inside her mum. And it's this
yep.
fascinating, yeah, anyway, we could talk about that for a whole thing. But for me, music, I think growing up with dad and playing in bands and going every Wednesday night to the Toowoomba Country Music Club and watching music, and then every Saturday going to gigs, it to me feels the most natural. And I tried through my 20s to have real jobs. I worked at Energex for like 8 years and that, but I always by night I was like the Clark Kent Superman kind of thing. I'd go home and I'd peel off my work clothes and pull on my old jeans and my contact tailors and head off to wherever it was, the zoo, the Jubilee, all those venues, which I'm really proud and happy about the fact that I got to cut my teeth in the Brisbane music scene at such an incredible time. This is pre MySpace, pre cell phones, pre social media of any kind. We used to go into Skinny's Records and, Rocking Horse Records and put our flyers, like Amy, and do the artwork, and we'd print them out. And Trixie and I'd go in the mall handing out flyers, and we'd put posters up in West End and all the cafes. And people would come and pack out every week, because even if they didn't know who was playing, there was always an automatic audience, because if people didn't go out on a Friday or Saturday, they just didn't see each other. There was no other way to connect, and apart from the old-fashioned, dial telephone.
Yeah.
So it was just a really special time, and music was thriving. And so many amazing bands, I think, came out of that era of the Brisbane rock scene. And I sort of feel sorry for young mob now that they're trying to do their first gigs and they're expected to pay the venue and guarantee 100 people through the door before they can play. Like we were cutting our teeth at Rick's Cafe when the bar would book us, and then they would pay us and they would promote it, and we didn't have to bring people, and we didn't have to worry about being good or bringing people in, and it
You didn't
allowed
have
us
to worry
just
about sharing your metrics as well, like how many followers you have on the socials and
and like
streams and
and there were scouts in the audience. A&R people would come out to gigs to watch you play, and bands were taking off everywhere. And it was just a really vibrant time, and really grateful I got to be a part of that. And it's great when I go to events like the Queensland Music Awards or Big Sound, and all the old mob like my age, they're all in the industry side of things now, some of them, and it's really cool we all still have that camaraderie. And some young artists will say to me, oh, how do you know everyone? And I'm like, well, I guess, I came from an era where people really truly connected and formed bonds. And, I think a lot of the industry today is quite superficial. And I feel it's very disheartening for some young artists, because they rely on those likes to feel relevant. And if they don't get the likes, or they can't get in the algorithm, or they can't get on a playlist, they feel like the work they're doing is irrelevant. And it really sucks for them, because we do need validation to let us know, to encourage us to keep going, to encourage us to keep making the sacrifices. And it's really problematic. It's a tough time for the industry. So I think for people like us, we have that camaraderie. Like we can't see each other. I mean, we don't see each other for 5 years, and yet it's like we saw each other yesterday.
Mate, I don't think we've seen each other for like over 10 years. I think the last time I saw you in person was Woolworths in Indooroopilly. But isn't time so weird? I feel like that was just yesterday.
Oh, exactly.
Yeah. You're right. It's a completely different industry. There are still benefits to the industry now, but you're right. There's a few more hurdles to get over, including that whole algorithm growth on social media, and it's a tricky one to you need to almost like detach from it and be like,
It is.
this is something I'll do, but I'm going to focus on this,
It's
building
a
my
different
confidence in
model. I
this.
mean, in our day, you had to be good. You had to be good live, and you had to have a
Mm,
following to get noticed. These days, that's not necessarily the case. If you are really passionate about it and you're a bit computer savvy, you can sort of spend a lot of time learning about algorithms and things. And some artists do take off, and they really do get all the things very quickly. My only concern is that they have all of those skills, but when it comes to actually performing a gig, that's where they fall over. So
mm,
it's sort of finding, the acts that have a bit of both. Like I
yeah.
still encourage people to go out and play to hone their craft as being a performer, because that's a
Mm,
special gift in itself. But then, whereas artists like me that have been around forever, we really struggle with the social media side. So it would be great if we could all just like,
can we all
maybe we
just
could
skill
do
share?
like,
Do a
yeah,
bit of a
like
cross skill
a
share.
big brother or big sister kind of thing, where we get together with a younger artist who manages our social media, and then we mentor them with stage skills.
Yeah. Actually,
That would be great.
that's not a bad idea.
Let's do
Actually,
that. Let's
I
do
was going
that.
to say,
Yeah.
I'm seeing projects like that pop up, and yeah, I think there needs to be more of that. Sometimes I think when we see, oh, they know that mob are already doing that, we think, oh no, well, they'll take care of it. But actually, we need more initiatives like that.
Yeah.
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 Oh, look, I'm so excited about performing with you this Thursday night. Can we talk about the jazz?
Yes.
So, where in the timeline did you start really getting into jazz? I'm assuming it was at an early age as well, because your dad would have been
Not
into.
necessarily. My
Yep.
only taste of sort of jazz was actually
Yep.
Willie Nelson's album Stardust,
Oh, I
because
love Willie
yeah,
Nelson
I love
Stardust.
it.
That was with the one of the Marcelluses. Yeah, he did
Yeah,
that
and it had
as
like
a collab. Yeah.
Georgia on my mind,
Yep.
and
And
you know,
Stardust. That's one of
Stardust and all those.
my
Yes,
favorite
that was
songs.
probably my only real taste of sort of jazz per se. And
Mm,
then prior to that, it was all Dolly Parton and Willie Nelson and all the other Kenny Rogers, Merle Haggard, Waylon Jennings, Patsy Cline, all the country stuff that I grew up with.
mm,
And naturally, being a child in the 80s, I grew up with a lot of 80s pop and all of that. So I love my 80s. But when I was working for my dad, he hired a guy in his piano department. And he was this wonderful, flamboyant piano player. He reminded me of like Liberace. He'd burst through the door and he'd go,
love it.
"Darling, with a voice like yours, you should be singing Nina Simone." And I was like, "Who the hell's Nina Simone?" So I think it was in the 90s. I was probably 16 or 17, and I was just finished high school, and I was doing a bit of work for Dad, and John came in and gave me a Nina Simone CD and a Billie Holiday CD. And at first I didn't like Billie Holiday because it was music, like a sound I'd never heard before, and her voice, it can be confronting that first time you hear her because it sounds.
Yeah.
And I went, oh, I don't really like her. But then I put on Nina Simone, and naturally the first song was My Baby Just Cares for Me.
Oh, love it.
And then one night I was up late watching Rage, which you do in the 90s. I used to sit up and late watching Rage, and this film clip came on, and it was that dunga 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 dung, and it was the Nina Simone film clip where she's an the cat. Have you ever seen that film clip?
I have not seen the film
Oh,
clip.
it's a film clip done with like plasticine figurines.
Yeah.
And it's actually her dressed as a cat standing there singing My Baby Just Cares for Me. And I just went, that's that song off that CD. And so I just became obsessed with Nina Simone, and I would play that, as with my fixations, I'd play that CD just over and over and over and over again for years on end in the car. So I just got to know all of the inflections and all of the songs off her first album, which was My Baby. Oh no, was it Little Girl Blue? I think that's the name
Oh,
of
I
the
love
album.
Little Girl Blue. Yeah,
Yeah.
that
And then
album.
years later, I then put Billie Holiday back on,
Mm.
and I put it onto Georgia on my mind and then I something sort of clicked. You know how sometimes it just takes you a while, and I went, oh yeah. And then her song Strange Fruit came on, and then it was like, then it sort of clicked for me, and then I became obsessed with Billie Holiday.
Mm.
And then one day I was at I think it was Brashes.
So that's a blast from the bloody past.
I know. And there was a triple compilation CD called Ladies Sing the Blues. So it was a play on, obviously, Billie Holiday's Lady Sings the Blues.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a compilation of clearly like these B-sides. So not the commercial songs, but there was Sarah Vaughan, Ella Fitzgerald, Billie Holiday, all of those, that era, Nina Simone, singing all these really cool songs that I've never been able to find since. And I'm so grateful that I burned it to my first Mac computer, and then put it on my iPod, which still works, touch wood. But also
That's going to be like a relic.
Yeah, it is. And
Yeah.
then I put it all onto a couple of CDs, which I've still got. So, and then I've now uploaded it to my Dropbox folder so I can listen to it in the car. But yeah, and so that's where I learned all those songs like "All of Me," "Why Not Take All of Me," you know.
I love Billie
So
Holiday's version of that.
yeah,
Yeah.
and so many little blues songs, even real blues. Like I've got a diehard blues, jazz fan in Toowoomba, plays traditional jazz stuff. And when I said, "Here's my song list," he went, "I've never heard of any of those."
Wow.
So when I gave them to him, he was just blown away. He was like, "Where'd you get these?" And I was like, "Just a CD back in the 90s." So yeah, so a big fan. And then obviously through the early 2000s, I got more into the rock punk scene, rockabilly kind of stuff. But on the side was always kind of doing my country stuff. Then I got into the band Sugartown, which you may remember. So Becky Jers and Jane Domagala and Jane. Oh gosh, what was Jane's last name? You'd know Jane. She plays in a bunch of bands.
I think it's Edwards.
No, Jane.
No?
What is her damn last name?
Oh, she's from the Jennies.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh my
Jane
God.
from the Jennies. Yeah, a long time
Jane
ago.
from the Jennies.
So yeah, we
And
used to
sorry,
play.
Jane, if you're listening to this.
Yeah.
I know you as Jane and your beautiful face.
I love her. And like she played
Yeah.
cello in Sugartown. So we sort of did the Americana thing before it was called Americana. So we were getting around playing with like the Drones, and then the Gin Club kind of kicked off and they started to do gigs with them. And then that was that era of that sort of, at the time it was called alt country. So it was like Texas Tea and Jackie Marshall, and All Us Mob would sort of go around playing the circuit in Brisbane. And so I sort of focused more on that. But then years later, just before I moved to London, or is it before? Actually, no, after I came back from living in London for a year, I was asked to play at the Powerhouse for the long player sessions. I don't know if you remember them, but it was where they would get a local artist and put on a show at one of the theatres in there where you could perform your favourite album start to finish. So when they booked me, they were like, just pick your favourite album and you can do whatever you like. And so I think they assumed I would do something like Patsy Cline or Chris Isaak or something. And no, I actually put together amazing players like Andrew Shaw and John, oh gosh, what was his last name?
John Reeves?
Yes, John Reeves on piano.
Yep. He's our musical director for Girlfriend Grease.
Love that.
Yeah,
he's amazing. And then I think Paul Hudson, is he?
Yeah, Paul Hudson. Yeah, drums.
Yeah, on drums. So I got the best bloody jazz players.
You've got the best bloody jazz band in Brisbane.
Yeah, and I said to them, I want to play Nina Simone's first album because I thought I can play American alt country.
In saying that, we've also got the best jazz band in Brisbane playing for us this Thursday night.
I can't wait.
Whoever plays with us in the moment is the best.
But yeah, so that was my first time doing the jazz officially, and that was I think there's one video of it. My partner at the time, he filmed it and put that up before we broke up. So I got one good quality video of us singing one of those songs by Nina Simone. It's on YouTube somewhere, and I love it.
Oh, I'm gonna find it. I'm gonna find it and reel it. I hope that's okay.
Yeah, go for it. Ain't No Use. I think it was by Nina Simone.
Oh, beautiful! I love that.
And they all get to do their little solos, and they were amazing. And I decided to wear I went like thrift store shopping with my friends and bought the most ridiculous vintage dresses and wore the most ridiculous stilettos and had my hair done up. And I thought I finally get to step out from behind the guitar and surprise people because no one had heard me sing like that. And we did all the songs in Nina Simone's original keys. And so that was really fun. And then I went back to country music for 10 years.
And I just saw recently, and this is what prompted it and this is why, sorry to get on a bit of a soapbox with this. This is why we must promote what we do on the social media because I saw a little clip, like you did a reel from your Toowoomba Jazz Club.
Yeah.
And I went, oh, fuck, that's right. About 15 years ago at Woolies, I said, I'd love to do a jazz gig with you one day. And there was my visual reminder. And then I straight away, messaged you, like honestly, within minutes. And it just so happened that you're available for this date. And it's like your last, day working at Q Music in Brisbane and you're going to be performing that night with us.
Yeah. Well, those gigs are really
night.
fun. It was on a whim. I think that was our third one. So 2 years ago, I was jamming with a friend of mine, Miguel Close. He's an amazing sort of trad jazz. He does the more sort of gypsy jazz, trad jazz stuff. And we did a couple of just little gigs doing these songs, like the songs that we're doing. And he'd play guitar or piano and I'd play the drums, like just a snare with brushes, and thought I was fantastic. And then he's like, oh, we should get a gig at the jazz club. And there's one in Toowoomba that's actually fantastic. You need to bring your band up. It sits
I've been
over
to it for
100
I've
people.
been up to Toowoomba to see jazz gigs.
Yeah, they put
Yeah,
on
yeah.
a great show there. And Michelle, who runs it, she puts on runs a tight ship. And she said to us, well, you can have this one night. I've got this one date free.
Mhm.
And then unfortunately, Miguel, something popped up and he couldn't do it. So then I brought on, oh gosh, I've just had a total brain fart.
That's okay. You had a slick jazz band because I
Yeah.
heard it in the reel.
Yeah, well, my
Yeah.
drummer, Harry Schneider, I've been playing with for years. So he plays in my band. He plays every bloody genre you could throw at him. And then there's a band in town called the Fibonacci Band, and that's a husband and wife team who April, I'm just having a total brain fart. Yeah, anyway.
That's okay. It's perimenopause.
I'll remember his name. Nathan Hitsky. Sorry, Nathan and April Hitsky. Thank you very much. And Nick and my friend Ian on Ian Craig on trombone. Anyway, I'll get there eventually. But yeah, and so we put this little band together, and Nathan's such an incredible piano player that he was able to just do the charts. I just sent the song list. He just wrote them out for the rest of the band, and then we did this one little gig. But because I do know a lot of people in Toowoomba, and Michelle kept going, oh, normally a country singer, she's going to wow us with some jazz, and they got the biggest audience they'd ever had. So she was like, oh my God, we need to put another one on the following year. And then we did it again this year, and it just gets bigger and bigger. Like, I think we had over 120 people at this one.
Amazing.
Like sold out, not like people were standing at the bar way up the back. And I thought, isn't this ridiculous? Like, I do a Sue Ray gig where I try to promote my own album, and I get 7 people and have to beg, steal and borrow to get my family to come. And I do a jazz cover gig and it sells out.
I'm always amazed by data. You know, like the thing, even just on social media, the post that you think is really educational and informative, and then you do something completely ridiculous, you know, or actually one thing, because, you know, I have been promoting more of Feel a Singer as opposed to my Little Mel shows or even Girl from Greece. So I always think that the people that follow me want to see, you know, how to posts, you know, like how to become more confident when you sing, like the mindset stuff. But when I sing, I get more engagement.
I love that. Yeah. Well, I was trialing that for a bit, and I'd do videos where I was singing, and I might get 800 views, which sounds great. And you get like maybe 60 likes.
Yeah.
And then I did a post about my pot plants one day where I just said, hey, does anyone else put their pot plants on their front deck to get sun so they can hang out together? And it had 7,000 views in about half an hour. Yeah. And I thought, right, pot plants. My pot plants are more famous.
I had a series called the Air Fryer Adventures that you know, back in the day, that did better than anything I've ever put out. So
it's hard to know what's going to get traction.
Exactly.
But I'm old school. I'm of the opinion that 800 views and 60 likes. If I could get 60 people to just come to a gig, that's amazing for me.
That's friggin' amazing. That's how I see it too.
And that I can talk to afterwards. I sometimes think if I self-sabotage myself from actually being any more famous than that, because I sort of, you know, I've got friends who tour in big touring bands like Chris Stapleton and stuff, and I think, they play to these massive arenas every night, but then they're not able to touch and talk to the audience afterwards and give hugs like I can, and they, you know, they don't get to know their fan base personally, and I think that's really exciting in one aspect. But I don't know, I love maybe the intimacy of maybe being an indie artist where I maybe play to 100 people, but then afterwards I talk to just about every one of them. And then when I put a post, they send me messages going, oh my God, so I loved that song. I can't wait to hear your new album. And that's so special to me. I think to be an indie artist born in Toowoomba that lives in Queensland and still be able to, at my age, connect to audiences still and, you know, put a song out and I get 3 guys in Brazil listen to it. I think, wow, you know, I get my little Spotify Warped comes through and it says you were playing in all these countries. And I think someone in Porto just played my song yesterday.
Wow, that's amazing.
I loved Porto. Best feed of my life I had in Porto. So some person could be sitting there having some amazing coffee and a pastry listening to Sue Ray. And I think, wow.
I know, it's beautiful. Yeah, and that you've always been, you are just a really warm, personable, you know, you're a storyteller, you know, there's no orcs when you're on stage, like orkies. You just, you know, it's
almost
like we're in your
I wish sometimes I could be
we're in your room, in your living room. We're there in your in your
sometimes they're in the
bedroom.
bathroom with me too. I take my audience anywhere. The problem is that is also part of my problem is I sometimes think, God, I wish I could be a little bit more refined or reserved and a bit more mysterious, maybe, and just
you look a bit mysterious in some of those promo photos with the cowboy hat.
I know. I just had some really amazing ones I'd done in Nashville. I went over to record my latest album because it's actually cheaper over there. And this amazing photographer, Joshua Black Wilkins, I fortunately used to room share with, not in the same room, house share, roommate with his partner, Kate Brady, who's an amazing photographer as well. So I asked her to do some photos while I was there, but she's just had a baby and she put me on to Joshua. And I was like, oh my God. And he does like Jason Isbell, and he used to take pictures of Justin Townes Earle all the time. And he's friends with Amanda Shires and all these amazing people. And he photographed me and my band, and he got some really, he does the black and white photography. So it's really haunting, really moody. I was like, yay,
Speaking of your new album, you're going to do a little sneak peek this Thursday night of one of the songs off the...
Yeah. One of the songs, I actually co-wrote the song with 8 Ball Aiken a while ago, and we planned to record it together. But then when I was in Nashville, the band that we had were in the studio for 3 days. They were just so amazing. I don't know if you've ever worked with session players from Nashville, how they do that really amazing Nashville numbers charting, how they use that.
I've never worked with them, but that sounds amazing.
Well, it's incredible. It's kind of like that. You'd probably be able to grasp it quite quickly because it's the same as jazz. Like, you 1 4 5.
Yeah.
But instead of writing it in Roman numerals, they do 1 4 5.
Oh,
and then
okay.
they use diamonds and little footballs for hold. So it's basically the same as jazz, but just written in one. One is your major, 2 is the diminished. So they write in that, and so the producer, this amazing player, Mike Lapinto, who I got to work with, who's just incredible. He would write the charts out every night and then turn up at the studio the next day. So we were knocking out 4 songs a day. So they're like, hey, Sue, have you got another song quickly we can chuck out this afternoon while your voice is getting really husky? Have you got any blues songs? And I was like, there's this fun little one I just wrote with 8 Ball Aiken and, played a bit to them. And they were like, yeah, let's do it. So I just played it to Mike, and he just wrote the Nashville numbers out as I was going, handed it to the band, and I think 2 takes we got it.
Amazing. Oh my goodness.
It's very much we're all laughing around the mixing desk because are you allowed to swear on your podcast?
Of course. I just F-bombed before.
Yeah. Did you?
Yeah.
He was like, oh my God, this sounds like Sheryl Crow fucked the Rolling Stones, and Bonnie Raitt was doing sound, and BB King was taking photos. Like, it's like this really raunchy kind of 70s blues rock kind of vibe, and it was really fun. So we're going to do that somewhere in the set.
It's so exciting.
In amongst Sarah Vaughan and Billie Holiday. And
So when is the album being launched?
I haven't decided yet, to be completely honest, because these days you have to be somewhat strategic. And as you know, the whole drip feed thing. Yeah. Years ago, you would just release an album, but now because of Spotify.
Oh, no, you have to. Yeah, it has
you have to
be
just
a proper
release
launch.
one song, and then then after you've done each song, after about a year, then you release the album. So probably the album could be next year.
Yep.
But I'll start releasing some singles. Maybe the first one on my birthday in July. Maybe I always release something, a gift to myself.
Now let's tell people where they can follow you. So it's at Sue Ray Music. Let me just double check your handle. Sue Ray Music.
SUERAY Music is my handle. Yeah. I'm very fortunate that I got in early. So it's my website is suraymusic.com.
Yep.
And then all of my handles are, facebook.com/SueRayMusic, Instagram, YouTube channel. Yeah.
Go follow her because she's got a ton of beautiful content, singing. And it's you're really inspiring, Sue, just so you know.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, I tend to
tough out there.
Yeah, I go to your page to get a hit of inspo. You do. You induce dopamine.
Oh, I hope so. Well, that's
and your singing voice induces dopamine and serotonin.
I try to keep it light. I saw an Ed Sheeran post interview once where he said that, with the world being so divisive, I think, and I'm not a politician. I didn't go to university to study history or business. I'm not educated, and I don't like to talk on subjects that I'm not educated in. And yes, of course, I have my own opinions about things, but essentially I'm just a musician. Like you said, I'm just a musician. I just want to share light and love with the world and bring positivity to try to raise the vibration of the algorithm, And I thought that's cool. So I kind of try to stick to that. I try to just post about gigs. I try to post funny jokes or snippets of songs, things that I loved or I love doing, or sharing with people that I've performed with. Like I got to perform with a friend of mine in Nashville, David Freeman, an amazing bluegrass instrumentalist and singer. And I just shared a couple of videos I recorded while I was over there this trip. And yeah, I just try to share light and love because I just think there's so much horribleness going on in the world. And if we can sort of raise a vibration any little which way we can, I try to do that. And I keep my private life pretty private. And I just think Sue Ray, the persona and the artist is a brand, but the girl I am at home is a bit different to that. But I try to separate church and state. I try.
Yeah, I love it.
The music and just try to keep it positive. And the same thing, I also try to only follow positive things. And I love your stuff. I love your content. And I don't know how many students I've sent your way now. I think Alithia Beatson, Benny Elder.
Oh my God. They're all like, friggin' amazing. Oh my God.
They're amazing. I've actually got a gig with Benny. So
really?
In a few weeks.
Yeah. He's beautiful. And also I love Alithia. She's just oh God. She's just got the Q touring. Well, she's going to the showcase to pitch for her last show. So yeah,
it's so exciting.
Yeah,
so being a part of her world
is the real deal.
Really, she is, and there's some amazing, like yourself. There's some incredible women out there just doing so much good work that we need, like creating this camaraderie that we need in the music industry and mentoring others. And I think at our age, not to be rude, but at our age, we're able to use the 30-year careers that we've had.
I'm only 25.
Yeah. Well, I feel I act it sometimes. Yeah. But yeah, I love watching a lot of women that I've grown up with within the industry now doing all these amazing things, like yourself with Fearless Singer and Alithia with all the work she's been doing and all these amazing artists that, like Kelly Lloyd works at APRA. Can't wait to get to hang with her and all these amazing, I'm just feeling, it's not always easy, but I don't want to focus on the negatives.
No. I mean, look, it's always what wolf do you want to feed? Do you know what I mean? Yeah. It's always a choice, Yeah. I love that analogy.
Yeah.
Mate, I'm so excited about performing with you. This Thursday night at the Cave-In, I'm going to do a set first and then Sue will do her set. We're doing mostly jazz, you and I, except I've got a little country number in there as well.
Yay.
Yeah. Actually, I've got 2 country numbers. And
I'll bring my cowboy hat then.
Yes. Oh, please. I'm going to wear my cowgirl shoes. And then you're doing mostly jazz and also throwing in a bit of country as well. So, yeah, it's going to be super eclectic. But I think, between both of us, we love a good yarn on stage. And
I'll try to restrain myself.
I said in a newsletter today, I said, we're just both a little bit funny. It's just a regional Queensland thing. We just can't help it.
Yep. I came from Toowoomba. All my mum and my aunties would yarn. And that's what I grew up with.
Yep. And that's, I guess that's what we want to try and get across at our show this week is that you're invited into our lounge room, like minus the cup of tea, but that's how it should feel.
I thought it was going to be my last gig for a little while because I was taking a break to focus on the album, but then I'm playing this little gig with Benny Elder popped up in June and I couldn't say no to that. Sorry, July, because it's my birthday that weekend. And then something else has popped up in October. I thought, but this is my last gig for a little while. So
yeah, good. Okay. Yeah. So please come. And also too, come and celebrate with Sue because it'll be her last day. Not that I know you're sad about leaving music, but it's still a celebration of like a one chapter closed, new chapter opening with APRA. So
I'll still be around with Q Music doing stuff.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So it'll be a nice little celebratory hang as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And it's at the Cave-In, which is fitting because Ruth Gardner is so amazing. And I've had the fortune of playing with her over the years as well. So I'm going to go hang out in that really cool green room that was designed by Strawberry Fields. I just found out yesterday, like the decor in there. And
that's Kelly. Is she Strawberry
Fields?
Okay. Yeah, no, she's so gorgeous. Yeah, and I love it up there. Yeah. So Thursday, 29th of May, despite my newsletter today saying the 30th of May. Okay. I've done that about 10 times over the course of a few weeks, putting that out and really triggering people's, OCD
panic
as well. Panic. So yeah, we kick off at 7:30. And yeah, it's just going to be really delightful, and we'd love to have
Can't
you here.
wait.
I'll put all the links to where to book your ticket link. But if you are on my socials at Mellotherus, if you just like DM me the word Jazzy, Jazzzy, it has like a little automated chat that will send you the link as well. But anyway, Sue, thank you so much for doing this.
Thanks for having me.
Honestly, it's been such a pleasure talking to you, and we could literally talk for
we
hours.
I literally could. You would just be sitting there waiting for me to take a breath.
I'd be listening to my own podcast that I purposely created. It would be perfect.
And I love how you and I have even accidentally like color coordinated.
Yeah, because we're bloody sisters, mate.
I know, and the fringe.
Yeah,
look at us.
exactly.
We should start our own act. I think we need to take this shit on the road.
Please, I love it. All right, bless you, and thank you so much for tuning in.
See ya.
Bye. I'll see you Thursday night.